Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science. Welcome to our Zoom gathering. Whether you're with us here on Zoom, as many of you are, whether you joined with us for the morning meditation or part of the studio audience, I want to give you a welcome. I also want to welcome everyone on Facebook, Insta, and X. Also, those of you who are listening every week now on Spotify. I'm grateful that you're here with us today. It's always wonderful to see you and to connect with you, however you connect with us, and share this time together, this time of reflection and inspiration. Today's talk is called I Am Wonderful. Now, I know this might sound a little bold, might even seem too much when you first hear it, but let me assure you, the message isn't about anyone's ego and it's not about arrogance. Today's talk is an invitation for us to embrace the deep truth that we are already enough, just the way we are. You might recall Louise Hay had different affirmations of which she would say, I love myself, or I love myself the way I am. Or in one version of that was, I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. And it went on and on. I remember at the time, this is many years ago, some people in the groups I was a part of having resistance with that statement. And I've facilitated her groups for, I don't know, a long time now. And I remember people saying that they really struggled with this idea of loving themselves. Because to be honest, deep at the center of their being, most people didn't really feel that way. They wanted to love themselves, but they really didn't feel that self-love that Louise was always advocating. So again, over the years, I facilitated these groups, and I've been in many of the groups where that's what we called at the time the work. The work is always about finding out who you are and finding out how to love ourselves and to change that conversation around from negating to affirming. So that was always the goal. That's what all of us were always working toward. Um, and as a minister, as a teacher, as a facilitator, teaching the importance of self-acceptance and self-approval. So that's what drew me to the teaching initially and to Louise Hay herself. And that's furthermore what keeps me here. I learned almost from the beginning that there's nobody out there or above or anywhere that's going to save me or save us. But there is power that's available to us within us that's always trying to get our attention, by the way, if we will just take a pause and learn to listen. If we really take that time and learn to listen, and if we're willing to begin to change our thinking, we will change our life. Um, so we need to take a pause. We need to take a moment and realize that there is this power. It's in us and it's operating through us. And it does, absolutely does respond to us. So Louise Hay was great. She was absolutely great. And especially when she said things like, it's all very simple. What I put out comes back to me. It's all very simple. Louise helped tens of millions of people. I'd be inclined to think it's over 100 million people now, all over the world. She helped them understand the process, what we do, and practice. And what she added to the teaching just made it better and easier for us. From the very beginning, she was encouraging people to practice self-acceptance and self-approval. And she wanted us to begin to understand that everything is in divine order, uh, and that we can rely on this power always. It's a power that we can use, as Ernest Holmes said. The thinking was then and now that we want to learn to accept ourselves completely. You've heard us say in different services, the universe doesn't make junk. We're whole, we're complete, and we're growing and we're evolving. And we learn here to practice self-acceptance and self-approval. And as we do, everything in our life begins to get better, begins to shift. You'll hear me say in many of our classes or webinars, Never, never, never criticize the self. So we can be critical of ourselves and we can be critical all through our lives, and it's not going to change anything. It's not going to improve anything. It won't make us feel better. So in this teaching, we developed the affirmative approach, or Louise Hay would call it the positive approach, practicing always self-acceptance and self-approval, always in the moment. As soon as you become aware that you're having a negative conversation or you're being critical, you just simply bring yourself back and just get back on track wherever you are. So back with today's talk title, I'm Wonderful. It was borrowed from Dr. Bill T. He was one of my favorite teachers, and it's entitled I Am Wonderful. So say that to yourself. I am wonderful. How does that feel when you say it? Now, you might have to start working with that affirmation, and of course, notice if anything comes up for you. Any resistance. Notice if you have any objections from yourself. If so, that's a place to begin. So in this lesson, we're exploring how to move beyond worry. We're exploring how to move beyond fear. And most of all, in this lesson, we're talking about moving beyond comparison, the comparisons we make in every way, and beyond self-doubt. We want to move beyond all these states of consciousness so we can connect with the divine presence within. This divine presence, by the way, is flowing through you and each and every one of us all the time. Today, we're going to uncover ways to celebrate who we are without looking to the right, to the left, or to anyone for approval. So, welcome, by the way, to anyone who's new to the call. We meet here every Sunday. Today's Sunday, of course, and we gather on Wednesdays for our Creative Living series at 7. And again, our Louise Hay self-healing class based upon the book You Can Heal Your Life on Thursdays. All of our gatherings are free of charge, and everyone's always welcome. If this message today resonates with you and you're called to support our work, there are support options in the chat rooms and also on our social media platforms. Any support, all your support, is deeply appreciated, and it helps us keep doing our work and reaching out to people all over the world. Let's today begin with a simple affirmation to recognize our innate worth. Say quietly to yourself or aloud if you feel comfortable. I am whole, I am complete, and I'm wonderful, just the way I am. Again, I'm whole, I'm complete, and I'm wonderful, just the way I am. Take a deep breath. Allow the profound truth of your wonderful worth settle into every single cell of your being. You are connected with something vast, something amazing, something beyond human understanding that has already declared you wonderful. Beyond comparison, beyond all judgment, beyond any judgment, you could never fully estimate or know your true value, and you could never, ever diminish it. It was established by the very source of life itself. This truth is not something you need to earn. It's not something you need to seek. It is already yours. It has been yours from the very beginning, woven into the fabric of your very existence. You are whole, you're complete, and you're absolutely wonderful, exactly the way you are. Your worth, as I'm trying to point out today in this lesson, is within you. Too often we wait for the world to tell us that we're okay. Someone's going to give us a promotion or a nod and tell us that we look good or we sound, good. This worth, is again established within you. So we don't want to be waiting around for looking to the right or to the left or someone to tell us that we're okay. We see in the everyday pressures around us, there's people who are having a tough time. This is 2024. People are struggling to keep up with costs, take care of their bills, or We're seeing kids stay at home well into their 30s and 40s because buying a house or an apartment seems like a dream from another lifetime. It's like there's been this invisible bar that we're trying to reach, but every time we get close to it, it seems to move just a little bit away from us. We're told by American media that success looks a certain way. Maybe it's having a house with a yard or a nicer apartment or some job that sounds impressive or important. But for so many of us at this time, just making it through the month without any type of stress over money is considered a real victory. And even then, we often wait for someone else to validate what we're doing. But here's the thing I want to remind you in our teaching. The world cannot give you what's already yours inside of you. Again, the world, in truth, there's nothing outside of you, right? The world can't give you what's already inside you. You don't need permission to feel worthy. You don't need a perfect life on the outside either. You don't need a perfect life on the outside to realize that you already have everything you need within. As Ernest Holmes reminds us, you exist so spirit may express itself through you. Again, one of my other teachers used to say, you're in the express business. You're here to express. And it's spirit expressing through us. So again, from Holmes, you exist so that spirit may express itself through you and as you. You are already part of something bigger than any financial struggle that you could be experiencing. You're already bigger than any societal expectation. You don't need to achieve someone else's version of success to matter. You already matter. You're enough. You're more than enough. You are an individualization of God life. You already matter. There's nothing within you that's missing. And so this wonderful teaching isn't about striving to become someone new. It's about remembering who you have always been. So with all that in mind, let's affirm together, I'm enough. I'm worthy of love and joy exactly as I am. I'm enough. I'm worthy of love and joy exactly as I am. At first, as I mentioned, it might feel strange to say these affirmations, these words, especially if you spent years believing that your worth depends on someone else's approval, or if you've spent years telling yourself that you're not okay. Here's the thing I will say. Each time you affirm your worth, the more habitually you affirm your worth and realize, I'm valuable. I love myself the way I am. Each time you begin to work with these affirmations where you know your worth, you're planting very positive seeds into the fertile soil of your consciousness. And like all seeds, they take a little bit of time and they need a little nurturing. But with attention and time and care, these seeds of truth will definitely take root. And one day, and it won't be that long, you'll no longer just say, I'm enough. You will know deeply within that you are enough. And you'll begin to live from that knowing, from that truth, the truth of your being wonderful, your wonderfulness. And you'll know that it's radiating, that you are radiating that inner knowing in everything you do. I have a story today about someone who had a journey towards greater self-worth. And her name was Jackie. And she was someone who, like many of us, struggled to believe that she was okay. She had lots of challenges when she was younger. She grew up in a home that was very competitive, where there were a lot of comparisons. And no matter what she did, it seemed like she was the one who didn't have it together. Everybody in her family was outshining her. She felt like she wasn't as smart as her siblings. It seemed like her sisters and friends got the better grades, the better jobs, and eventually that they all wound up living what she thought better lives. That's how she remembered it, at least. Jackie carried all these feelings with her, through her teenage years and adulthood, and silently believing that no matter what she did or accomplished, that she would never measure up. So after a long time, this would be years, feeling weighed down Uh, you know, her spirit was very heavy. One day, she did have an epiphany of sorts. Something stirred within her. She was tired of it, sick and tired of it, and she she was tired of making the endless comparisons where she would always bring herself to dark places. So she tried something new. She got some counseling, and after a bit of counseling, she started practicing affirmations. And at first, for her too, it was awkward to make these positive statements, and sometimes even painful. To say I'm worthy, to say I'm enough was a struggle for her. The words felt foreign to her. They felt like they didn't belong to her. But as the story I remember, something within her finally started to connect with it. And she said them even though she didn't believe them. She acted as if. So every day she was planting these seeds of truth. And over time, without her even realizing it, there was a shift in her consciousness. And the constant need for comparison seemed to stop. It loosened its grip. And Jackie realized something that she had not allowed herself to realize before. She came to know that her worth wasn't about achieving anything. She started to understand that her worth had always been there, simply because she existed. See, once you realize that you have value just because you're here, that you're one with Source, that you are an inlet and outlet of this spiritual activity, a new sense of peace will begin to replace these old states of consciousness. And in Jackie's case, all this heavy anxiety that before consumed her, it started to abate. She started to understand that this worth wasn't something to be earned. It is her. It's all of our birthright. And so, with that truth, she began to live her life in a different way, free from the trap of comparing herself to anyone for anything. So that's a good story because we all fall into traps or the comparison trap from time to time. I think it's part of being human. You might not these days be familiar with I can't say his name, Teilhard de Chardin anymore. He was always talked about in my classes. He was a French thinker who many people were speaking of when I was getting into ministry. He was not only a philosopher, but he was also a scientist and a priest. Teilhard spent his life exploring how science and spirituality fit together. He believed that all of life is part of a bigger unfolding process. He maintained life is a sacred journey, moving us towards something greater. He once said, reality as we know it, divided by our thinking, divided by logic, always leaves something behind. A remainder, he said. Now, my teachers used to say that over and over again when I got into metaphysics. Reality divided by logic always comes up short. It leaves a remainder. And what does that mean? I would wonder myself in classes. It means that when we try to explain life with just logic and just facts, there's always something left out. There's always something left over that's not fully measured. That's the part of life that's deep. That's the part of life that's mysterious and meaningful. And that's what happens when we compare ourselves to others. Comparison leaves us feeling like something's missing. When we try to measure our worth by looking to someone else's life, we forget that what really matters can't be measured by external things. It's like comparing an oak tree to a rose bush. Each grows in its own way and has its own particular beauty. They don't compete or compare. They simply are. When we compare ourselves to others, we miss the truth that we are complete just the way we are. We're spectacular just the way we are. Teilhard's idea reminds us that life and our own worth is much bigger than anything we can measure or we can ever compare. We've all fallen into the comparison trap. Maybe you've found yourself scrolling through social media for a half an hour or longer and thought, everyone here seems to have it all together. Look at these pictures. And why don't I have it together? But the truth is, what we see in the media as we scroll is only a part of the story. Nobody's posting their fears, their scary thoughts, their doubts, their struggles, their pain. Social media is like a highlighted reel. You see the vacations, you see the promotions, the graduations, the perfect snapshots. What we don't see is the stress behind the scenes. We don't see the sleepless nights, the real life messiness. That stuff doesn't make it online. We all have things that we're dealing with that aren't exactly Instagram worthy. Paying bills, navigating through relationships and inflation, trying to stay healthy. These things are very real, and they're often difficult. But when we're busy scrolling, it's easy to start thinking that everyone else has life figured out while we're stuck just trying to keep up. That's why Ernest Holmes brings us back to reality with this reminder. He said the only competition is between the infinite possibilities within yourself. And I'll repeat that. Ernest Holmes says the only competition is between the infinite possibilities within yourself. The only person worth measuring yourself against is the person you were yesterday. I like that. The only person worth measuring yourself against is the person you were yesterday. When we get all caught up in comparing ourselves to other people, we lose sight of the beauty in our own journey. We forget that our path is so unique, and that's wonderful. This isn't just Ernest Holmes' wisdom either. Theodore Roosevelt said it best, I think. He said, comparison is the thief of joy. Looking over the fence at someone else's life will not bring you peace. It only robs you of your own. And contemporary author, who I've read a bit, Brene Brown, nails it too when she says, stay in your lane. Comparison kills your creativity and your joy. Once we stop comparing, we start to realize that we're on our own timeline. Everyone's life story is unfolding differently, perfectly, and that's the real beauty of it. Perfect time, perfect place. Your journey, however unique, and they're all unique, is yours. And that's wonderful. That's enough. Your path is unfolding perfectly, even if it looks different from someone else's. Simply release the need to criticize, release the need to compare. The oak tree doesn't envy the rose bush. It simply grows at its own pace. Think about the last time you noticed a friend getting a new job, or someone buying an apartment or a house, or someone's taking a fantastic vacation. It's easy to start thinking, why does their life look so good and exciting? And then you start to question your own. Remember, what you're seeing is only a highlight reel. It's a flash. You don't see the stress behind the new job, nor do you see the sacrifices that were made to afford the new home, or the challenges that these folks have faced on a vacation. It's a bit like watching a movie. You see the polished final product, but not the work behind the scenes. Comparison only gives us fragments of someone else's realities and often leaves us feeling small. The next time you find yourself comparing your life to someone else's, pause and say, I bless their success and I welcome my own. That would be very generous. It would be great to be able to have that consciousness to say, I bless their success and I welcome my own. See, this simple shift, this little shift reminds us that the universe is completely abundant. Someone else's success doesn't take away from yours in any way. In fact, your acknowledgement of it expands what's possible for you and for everyone. So let's affirm this truth together. I'm exactly where I need to be, doing exactly what I need to be doing. Again, I am exactly where I need to be, doing exactly what I need to be doing. Louise beautifully said, I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. Yes, we're all in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. Remember, you are the author of your own experience. No one else can create the life you desire. Only you. One of my teachers used to say, Well, he said you are the author of your own experience. He also said you are the artist of your life. And when he's speaking of the artist of your life, he would say, every day is a fresh canvas waiting for your unique touch. And the best part, it doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't even matter what happened 5 minutes ago, for that matter. You can start fresh at any time. I used to say, it's never too late to start your day over. Fact of the matter is, you can stop right now and start it again at any moment. Each moment offers a new opportunity to choose how you show up and what thoughts you think and what emotions you embrace. So you're always at a point of beginning where you could cancel whatever had come before and start again. And here's the most beautiful truth regarding the artist analogy. You hold the paintbrush. No one else can paint your life unless you hand the brush over to them. As Louise, who was one of our practitioners here at First Church, used to say, you're the artist of your life. So I'll say, don't hand that paintbrush over to anyone else. Most of us want to release limiting beliefs so that we can create more freely. Louise taught us that the core of so many of our struggles is the belief that we aren't enough, that we don't do enough, that we're not okay. She said the bottom line for everyone is they don't think that they're good enough. And yet, we came into this world loving ourselves completely as little infants, as little babies. As children, we didn't question our worth. We accepted ourselves fully. But over time, we picked up limiting beliefs from family, from teachers, from society, and even well-intentioned friends. We started somewhere along the way to believe that we needed to be smarter, thinner, more successful, or more likable to be worthy of love. These patterns of thought began early, and they got reinforced over time. They show up in comparisons, comparing ourselves to siblings, classmates, colleagues, cousins, and then they become the stories we tell ourselves over and over. But these beliefs are just stories, after all. They're not the truth. In this teaching, we release the old messages, the old messaging that no longer serves us. We actively release all of that. We actively trade in the lesser ideas for the greater. We embrace the truth that we are supplied, we're supported, and worthy just the way we are. So we must take back that brush if we've handed it over to anyone. It's easy to forget that we are in charge of our own canvas. If fear creeps in, we let other people's opinions and expectations weigh us down. We have to do something about it. Maybe we try to fit ourselves into someone else's idea of success, only to feel then further disconnected from our own sense of truth. But the canvas is still yours. You can always take back the brush and start again. I have one more story. Emily, she had a story about freedom. For years, she lived by what there was an expectation. Other people had expectations of her, as I remember. And eventually, she achieved some success. She worked in a corporate job that she didn't like. And she was living in a place that she didn't like. And she was doing some questioning, as some of you do, like, how did I get here? Deep down, she felt unfulfilled. One day, she asked herself a life-changing question. She was asking herself, if I were truly free, what would I create today? What would I paint today? At first, the answer scared her because it didn't align with the life that she thought she was building. But instead of ignoring it, she decided to experiment a bit. She signed up for weekend art classes, something that she'd always wanted to do, but she never had time to do. And as she was doing this, it's like a little hobby, it sparked joy within her. So what began as a hobby grew into something deeper, and that oftentimes happens to people. Her art eventually became a business, and her days began to reflect the joy and the freedom that she had longed for all her life. Her life didn't change overnight, but it did change because she consistently practiced and consistently chose to create something new. So I have a question for everyone today. What will you paint today as we go forward? Let me ask you, what story have you been painting so far? And is it one that you truly want to create? So think about your life. What story have you been painting up to now? And is it the one you truly want to create? I'm reminded of a friend of mine, it's a judge, who always used to say, the final chapter has not been written. So what story have you been painting up till now? And again, is it the one that you truly want to create? I'm reminded of another friend of mine who used to say, this isn't a dress rehearsal. So we want to be about spirit's business. We want to be in touch with what we want to create. So the question is, what story have you been painting so far? And is the story you've been painting the one that you really want to create? What will you paint for yourself today? What colors will you reach for? What new heights? There's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions or in the way you create your life. Every thought you think, every action you take, you can think of it like the brush stroke on the canvas of your experience. And the best part of all, if the picture doesn't look the way you want, you can paint it over again. You can start again. It might be helpful to imagine your life like a canvas. So let's take a moment to do that. We can do it together for just a moment. You could close your eyes if you want, or just let your imagination go. Picture yourself standing in front of a large blank canvas. The canvas represents your life, wide open and full of possibilities, endless possibilities. In your hand is a paintbrush made of light. With every breath, imagine dipping that brush into beautiful colors. Maybe you're painting scenes of joy, love, peace, laughter. If you notice any blurred or cluttered areas on the canvas, you can gently apply a coat of white paint or color to make it disappear. Let go of any thoughts, emotions, or actions that no longer serve you. Take a deep breath in and slowly exhale. Now affirm, silently or aloud, I am the artist of my life. I create with love, joy, and freedom. Being the artist of your life isn't about perfection. It's not about perfection at all. Being the artist of your life is about progress. It's about freedom, and it's about joy. We seek progress, not perfection. Every experience, whether a success or a setback, is part of your masterpiece. And above all, it's about knowing that you're already wonderful, just the way you are. As Louise Hay reminds us, you've been criticizing yourself for years, and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. Every new day, every new thought, and every new choice is a chance to paint something beautiful. There's no limit to the good that you can create. You are the artist, and your life is your canvas. And so it is. So that's our lesson. As we walk away from today's lesson, let's take this simple truth with us. You're wonderful. That's an affirmation because I am wonderful. Take this truth with you and take the affirmation also. Not because of what you do, but because of who you are. You are already enough just the way you are. So we're going to close with the treatment now. Very brief. I recognize and I know that there is one life, one spirit. That spirit is mine, in me, operating through me, as me. I know I'm supplied, supported, and I'm wonderful. And so it is. So now we turn the cameras over to you. I'd love to hear what it's been like being you this week, what demonstrations you've had, what good news you'd like to share. If you're new, I'd love for you to say hello and where you're from. And so that's it. I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you.